Hi guys, welcome to L.I.S fishing. On this video I'm going to show you how to tackle monsters like this, heavily, extremely flooded rivers, and it's going to be a real challenge. I don't think we're going to catch anything today because it's really hard. It's carrying about 8 foot of water today, so it's right up there. I'm at the Beare Pod at the moment just to see how fast it is actually coming through. All this bit here is normally out above water, so it's really high. So let's get down to the video and I'll show you some key spots first, then we'll look at rigs, then we'll look at baits, and let's just get fishing. See you in a minute. Right guys, so we've chose to swim now. I've gone for a cutaway, so basically it goes into a V. One side goes to a little bit faster and it's more like a little weir, but it's completely flooded, so the water's really sped up over there. And on the right, it cuts away and it goes to a dead end. So it's almost like a lake, and all the debris is getting pushed up there as it turns round. And I think that's a really good spot for holding for barbel, chub, and possibly carp. So basically what I've done is I've set one rig up. You can see I've already got one out at the moment. And I'm using quite heavy leads, 5 ounces, purely because when debris comes through I don't want to be bumped off the bottom and dragged down the river, stuff like that. And I've got a nice strong braided hook length, 25-pound hook length, with a really smelly bait. So when you're fishing for flooded conditions and you're fishing for everything, I opt for high leakage baits, things like meat, things like that. I've got here, this one is squid and scopex soaked in. These are not squid and scopex, squid, Nash, boilies, these are other brands. But I've been soaking them in scopex and squid extracts, and they've been soaking the whole of lockdown, so since the start, so really long. This one as well, these are buoyancy baits, so these are pop-ups. I've got some naturals and I've got some fluoros there and some pastels as well, like fades out. You can also use things like smelly baits, so like cheeses and meats, but what I tend to do with the meats and stuff, I tend to fry them first, so it stays on a bit better. You've got a tough bit of skin, you've got almost like a crust there. Also, I sort of soak them in sort of like a bit of soy sauce, something really fishy, really smelly. I also sometimes put a bit of chili flake on them to give them a bit of a boost in attraction. And that tends to work for things like chub and stuff like that. Like I said to you, the rig I'm using is quite heavy. I will show you in a minute. But basically it's a 5-ounce gripper, which I made myself. 18-pound mainline. I've opted for a slightly higher poundage in mainline, just so I got that pressure when I'm pulling in. It's a 3-pound Tesco rod. I don't have a 3.5 pound rod, so I'm just using the strongest ones I've got. I've got them on my pod, which is set up right. It's a nice sturdy pod. It's got 4 legs, and it's almost like a turret, so I can move up and down, left and right. Really strong, and I've got some bite alarms on there just for added bite indication. I'm actually watching the tips as well, because I'm going for like chub, barbel, maybe a carp if there's one about. I've gone for a really big smelly bait, so a 20mm and a 10mm pop-up. Just to have that visual attraction and all that scent and stuff going into the water, and that's what I want, because I'm fishing quick today. I'm not using any ground bait, any loose feed, that sort of thing. So I'm fishing nice smelly baits, single baits, and just fishing for a bite. I'm just hoping there's one about. I don't think there will be. I've got about an hour, because when I filmed the intro, we had about 4 or 5 hours of rain, so I've literally had to come back before dark and just finish the video. So yeah, like I said, I'm fishing for bites basically, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to show you the rig now and stuff like that, and just go from there. I'm going to wing it, see what we can get, and just hope and pray. Right, so let's talk about the gear I'm using today. So it's the Fox Horizon 3, and this one is a 3-pound test curve. It's got 40mm butt rings, which I prefer. It's got a nice abbreviated handle, like I said. It's very stiff rod. It's probably the stiffest rod I've ever had, which is good. That's paired with the Fox EOS 10,000 bait runner reel. Perfect for what I do. Long range I don't really do, so it's nice and equipped. I can do lakes on this, I can do rivers because I've got the bait runners as well. And that has the 20-pound Fox soft steel mainline. New line I'm using, never tried it before. So far, really nice. Really liking it. And that goes down all the way to the end tackle. The end tackle is straight through. I have a Corum running rig system, and that is a 5-ounce gripper lead, which I've made myself, like I said. I've cut the swivel off and it's gone straight onto the joining swivel for that rig. I've got a very long tail because I don't want wrap rounds in flight. I can use helicopter rigs if I want to as well, but I'm just choosing for a bottom bait rig today. And that's on the 20-pound braid with a sort of long hair, and that's just a standard knotless knot hair rig. So that's the basic, as basic as that. And the reason why I've kept the basics like that is because I can choose to use meat, I can choose to use cheese, I can choose to use boilies, I can choose to use pellet, because it's so simple. And it's a nice easy rig to tie. You can adopt it a bit better, you can probably add a little rigger liner there. If you want it a pop-up rig, put a bit of putty there as well, just to make it a bit more buoyant. Totally up to you. But like I said, this is just a very, very basic rig on how I fish on flooded rivers. I keep it nice and short just to minimise tangles, and obviously because it's so coloured, you have very minimal risk of spooking fish. So yeah, that's my little rig. I just hope you like that. And I'm gonna bait up and get out, hopefully to the fast snags behind me. So let's get this out. Let's talk about the pod setup. I've got the rods upright, so there's most line out of the water as possible. I've got them lodged in the back here to a tight bobbin onto the biot arms, and that's basically it. That's my pod, nice and sturdy, can't rock it, not going to move, everything's nice and tight, bait rod is on, so if there is a run in this flooded water or a big bit of debris comes in, it's not going to get knocked over and it's just going to pull the drag. So yeah, just thought I'd run you through that quickly. So let's talk about location. So location is key when it's this type of fishing. It's difficult already in terms of flow, colour in water, stuff like that. Debris, it's terrible. So what you need to do is you need to look for, it's almost easier in a way when you're fishing in flooded conditions, because all the fish are condensed down into slacks and hides and stuff like that. So what you need to do is when you go onto your water and into your rivers and stuff like that, is first of all look for slacks, deep slacks. Don't look for like really shallow slacks, but look for like sort of deep slacks. And you can normally find this on bends. You can normally find it on cutaways like I'm doing now, when it splits into two parts of the river. Like I said, just a little bump. I think it's a bit of debris going through. And you basically want to look for them sort of areas. And if you can't find them sort of areas, look for snaggy areas. So places where the water's going to be disrupted. So you want to look for like sunken trees, reed beds, anywhere where you know there's going to be like some sort of slowdown of water. On top of that as well, if you're only good with like feature finding, which it's very, very difficult to do in flooded conditions, but like holes as well in the water, and basically all the water's just going to run over the top of them. And if you know that area anyway, like I know this water, that this deepens up in certain areas, there's slacks in some areas, there's features in some areas. I've just chose for the cutaway because easy to film and it's a nice big area to work with. But when I go on to bigger waters, I'll show you what I mean by there's nothing to work with. You've just got to try and find the slacks and stuff like that. Basically, yeah, once you find the location, if the fish are there, you'll get them. And then on top of that, what you want to look for is like I said before, a really smelly bait. Basically, you want to go for a really smelly bait, something that's really going to let off a good oily stream into the river. Yeah, so sorry about that. So like a real oily bait, something which is really going to give off a lot of scent, something to really draw the fish in. So if you're piking, go for something really oily, like sardines, mackerel, lamprey, eel section, something really oily, really, really smelly. That's going to really draw in the fish. And if you're going for like barbel, you're going for chub, you're going for carp, that sort of stuff. Carp are very, very difficult in the winter anyway. But go for a really oily bait, something which is going to seep off a lot of smell. Something like I said, I've soaked mine in squid extract, in scopex extracts. They're already really, really fishy baits anyway. They really give off a lot of pungent smell. Something really draws the fish in. And then if you don't use boilies, use something like I said, a meat of some kind, so like lunch meat. So, but like I said, seal it on one side in a frying pan, and then that way the current won't drag it off when you use it. Or on top of that, use a little slice of foam to keep it on the hair rig. And then with cheese, I've used something like a cheese paste, which is fantastic for chub in the winter, or a block of cheese hair rigged on. So there's a few different baits you can use to try and catch the fish in the area, but once you find them, it's a case of just getting the fish feeding. And like I said, it's difficult in the winter as it is, and in flood conditions it's even more harder, and a lot of people just give up. But if you can find the fish, you can get on the fish, you can be really, really rewarded. And some of my best fish have been in flooded conditions. Like my first pike was caught in flooded conditions, my first chub was caught in flooded conditions, and so on. So if you get out there, you can really, really catch some nice fish. And then come in spring, you've got all your stuff fine-tuned anyway for when the water's slightly lower anyway. So keep practicing it, keep going, but just remember it's difficult, and just keep cracking on with it, and you will be greatly rewarded. I say that, I hope I get fish now. Right guys, I'm going to call it a day today. I'm going to get off before the rain comes. It's getting a bit dark now as well. I don't know, I'm not quite sure on the lockdown restrictions about when you feel allowed to go overnight. I don't think you are, so I'm not going to bother going into the night. Yeah, it's been a very difficult day. I lost one of my rigs to a tree, come bounding through, nearly snapped my rod. But that's, like I said, have your drag on and have a sturdy pod and it works fine. It's been very, very difficult. Cold, a lot of colour and a lot of water going through, but that's fishing. You've got to be in it to win it, as they say. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to pack up, head home, and on to the next adventure. Catch you soon. See you on the bank sometime.